At the pre-wedding party, Cherry got drunk again and hung on my fiancé Sean. She used coquetry and clinginess to ask him to take her home. I begged Sean not to leave me alone, but he said I was full of princess disease. Finally, I said, let's break off our engagement. That night, I took Jason's car and got into his bed. But Sean went crazy looking for me. Brother Sean, I'm drunk. Can you take me home? Cherry became Sean's human pendant again. This dress is like a rag and sticks tightly. She didn't even wear a bra. All the guests at the pre-wedding party were attracted. The male protagonist was openly bear-hugged by another woman. What a big gossip. But Sean didn't care. He looked down at Cherry in his arms. It seemed there were only the two of them. Others held their breath. I was speechless and rolled my eyes. He is my fiancé. Is this appropriate? Her face was embarrassed, then she lowered her head and showed a wronged expression. Pretending to be pitiful every time. A boy who was closer to her, Sean's high school classmate, spoke lecherously and offered to take her home. The boy waved gentlemanly. Cherry was stunned. Her voice became coquettish, but I want brother Sean to take me. The boy took his hand back, but Yvonne will probably be jealous. Sean glared and stroked Cherry's back. He reprimanded, what are you talking nonsense? Cherry and I grew up together. Why would she be jealous? But Cherry's eyes were filled with tears. That look is not what an ordinary childhood sweetheart should have done. I bit my lower lip and clenched my fists. That coquettish woman is seducing my fiancé again. I tried to control my expression and forced out a smile. I accidentally drank too much and want to go back early. Sean, choose one. If you push away Cherry and choose me tonight, I will believe you love me and marry you. But he shifted his gaze and stopped looking at me. Cherry is shy and has loved clinging to him since childhood. He will take her home first. I reached out and grabbed the corner of his clothes, protesting silently, Yvonne, don't be temperamental. I know you're not drunk. His other free hand stroked my hair, be good. Pat on the head. Be good your head. I dodged his touch sideways, but the hand holding the corner of his clothes became even tighter. Sean, I'll only say this once. If you take her, let's break off our engagement. I'm not joking. Sean was full of impatience. He lifted his clothes with a force and directly shook off my hand. He also smoothed the wrinkles on his clothes. Put away your princess disease, Yvonne. His eyes looking at me also changed from impatience to contempt. Completely stopped pretending. Just like on the night before the engagement, he casually glanced at the dinner I cooked for him myself, and was called away by a phone call from Cherry. There was exactly the same disgust in his eyes. Sean and Cherry grew up together in the compound since childhood. They have many common childhood friends. They all protect Cherry very much. One of his childhood friends spoke up at this moment and was them again. Everyone knows that Brother Park dotes on Cherry the most. Sister-in-law, you should give in a little. The person's wife chimed in with her husband, that's right. With their relationship for so many years, what kind of jealousy are you eating? Really petty. Before I could refute. Suddenly, Jason walked out slowly from the crowd. Surrounded by his aura, people around chose to make way. He walked up to that girl, snorted lightly, and sarcastically said, can you accept your man leaving you here alone? After a pause, he tilted his chin and motioned her to look at the beauty beside her husband, and continued, for another woman too? Then you are really generous. Jason is very outspoken. With just a few words, he made that girl speechless and her face turned pig liver red. The girl didn't dare to retort Jason either. She stammered for a long time and couldn't say a word. Jason put one hand in his pocket and played with his phone with the other hand. He walked up to me. A calm and lazy voice sounded, I'll take you. I was stunned for a moment. He is like a domineering president stepping on colorful auspicious clouds, shielding me from all malicious words. Jason is also Sean's childhood friend. However, he moved away from the compound very early, and people rarely come into contact with him. His status is different from the past. Now he is already a well-known returned prince of the Beijing social circle. Jason has successfully attracted my attention. When Sean started to book a driver, I came to my senses. I raised my hand to unfasten the necklace around my neck and took off the ring. That was a gift from Sean when he proposed to me. After Sean hung up the phone, I held the ring in front of him. Sean took a look at the ring, his face gloomy. He found it very absurd. What are you doing? I won't marry you anymore. Let's break up. I lifted his hand and put the things in his palm. Yvonne, stop making trouble, okay? I don't care if some other man sends you back when you're drunk one day. His voice grew louder as he spoke. It's not hard to see that his anger was burning. In front of a group of people, he reprimanded me mercilessly. In Sean's eyes, I am always throwing a princess tantrum. Didn't you see that Cherry is so drunk? It's simply unreasonable. I remained silent. I don't want to become a shrew who curses in the street. Seeing that I stopped talking, Sean didn't bother to pay attention to me either. Soon, the driver he booked arrived. Without looking back, he helped Cherry into the car and left. Only then did I chase after them and squat down feebly. Sean could actually see me squatting at the door and crying with my head buried in the rearview mirror if he just glanced back a little. But once again, he chose not to look back. Obviously, it was our pre-wedding party. How did it end up in such an embarrassing situation? The guests who hadn't left yet were also very embarrassed. But I couldn't care less about these anymore. I don't know when, Jason walked up to me and squatted down to look down at me. What are you crying for? Do you want to get in my car? Suddenly, there was an uproar behind me. No way. As soon as Sean leaves, someone tries to steal his girlfriend. Don't talk nonsense. Jason probably just wants to send Yvonne home. But I guess Cheyenne won't agree. She is deeply in love with Brother Park. My image as a lovesick fool is deeply rooted in people's hearts. But in the next second, I stopped crying abruptly and nodded in a daze and agreed. I reached out as if possessed and put my hand in Jason's palm, letting him lead me away. Sean's childhood friend called out to me, "Sister-in-law, aren't you going to wait for Brother Park to come back?" I stopped in my tracks. Still holding Jason's hand, I turned around and smiled slightly. I have just broken off my engagement with Sean. Let's consider this party our breakup party. I hope you all have a good time. I have been with Sean for 3 years. I am always compromising. Patience has its limits. This time I don't want to be a good girl anymore. Why do I, as his proper girlfriend, always have to give in for his childhood sweetheart? Amidst a series of shocked gazes, I left in Jason's car. Jason drove me home. On the way, he played music and didn't mention anything that happened at the party again. I hesitated for a moment, seized the opportunity, and spoke in a low voice. "Thank you for helping me out just now." Jason looked straight ahead and drove attentively. He said in a flat tone, "What? Regretting it already?" I was stunned for a moment. How could that be? I should congratulate myself on leaving the jerk. By the way, Fu. Brother Jason, welcome back to China. Seeing is believing. Thank you really for helping me out. I guess Jason offered to take me away tonight just to prevent me from being even more embarrassed. At least I'm not the one who is completely abandoned. Jason was wearing a black shirt and looked noble and lazy. He glanced at me sideways and said casually, "I'm not a gentleman. Maybe I really have an ulterior motive for you? So trusting of me." The smile on my lips froze and I was embarrassed. I didn't expect the young master of the Fu family to be joking too. I didn't take it seriously. I can't afford to climb high and marry into the Fu family. I shook my head and put aside distractions. Of course I trust Brother Jason. After all, I always heard Sean often mentioned Jason before. Since being selected as the successor by the Fu group, he has been studying abroad. Even so, there are rarely any rumors about him. Everyone says that he keeps away from women and is clean living. At this moment, when I think of Sean, I am plunged into the unpleasant memory just now. I really don't want to mention his name at all. I wasted 3 years of my youth in vain. A thought came to me, "Brother Jason, please drop me off at the entrance of a nearby bar. I'm not going home tonight. Now that I'm single again, of course I should celebrate." Jason didn't ask me the reason and didn't continue the topic. 10 minutes later, Jason parked the car at the entrance of an upscale bar. I looked out. It was a place I had never been to before. In fact, I have always been a good girl in the past 20-some years. Except for occasionally throwing a small tantrum, I have never done anything out of line. It's quite novel. After the car was turned off, Jason didn't unlock the car door. Instead, he put his hand on the steering wheel and propped his head on it and looked at me sideways, his eyes slightly narrowed. I said I have an ulterior motive. Getting in my car requires payment. At this distance, I can see his faintly exposed collarbone, abstinent and charming. What kind of posture is this? My heart suddenly started racing, as fierce as a drumbeat. A trace of panic flashed through my mind. My eyes flickered and I held my bag tightly and murmured, "Bah, I have no lust." When Jason heard this sentence, the corner of his mouth twitched. "You still want to violate me?" Hearing these words, I waved my hands in horror. "No, no, no. I have no interest in you at all. You can rest assured. I definitely don't mean to reach for what's beyond my grasp. For fear that he might misunderstand. But Jason's expression still gradually turned cold and serious. The atmosphere in the car became more and more awkward. Well, brother Jason, what reward do you want? Silence. Continuous silence. Did I step on some minefield? 05 Finally, Jason moved. He raised his slender finger and clicked open the door lock. Slowly and unhurriedly, he asked for a reward. Take me with you to the bar and buy me a drink. Just say it earlier. So he just wants to freeload a drink. It is rumored that he is not close to women, nor does he like tobacco and alcohol. It turns out that no one takes him there. He's just making excuses here. I won't expose him. I immediately nodded like a chick pecking at rice, nodding frantically. I'm more than happy to have an acquaintance accompany me to bravely venture into the bar. Jason and I got out of the car together. The waiter at the bar is very enthusiastic and directly arranges the largest private room for us. Probably recognizing Jason's identity. I gave him a meaningful look. I'm enjoying his limelight. When Jason went to the restroom, the wine was served. I picked up a pink cocktail and drank it while opening my phone and scrolling through moments. At a glance, I saw the picture posted by Cherry 10 minutes ago. The two were sitting in the back seat. Cherry was lying in Sean's arms. The picture of Sean's face was secretly taken from bottom to top. The legendary girlfriend's perspective. The caption is, "It's so happy to be in his arms. He said I'm the most important." Yuck. Looking at this moment's post that is only visible to me again, I can only find it amusing. The mistress is dancing in front of me every day, and I still give her chances again and again. I said to myself, Yvonne, are you stupid or not? Why would you think you can tie down a person with marriage? I clicked into Cherry's homepage. 2/3 of the content inside are pictures of Sean taken by her or group photos of the two of them. Sean attended her graduation ceremony, took her to the amusement park, accompanied her on camping and stargazing, and took care of her when she was sick. There was a bit more self-mockery in my eyes. The pink cocktail attracted me, and I drank it one sip after another. I drank very quickly. But it's strangely delicious. When Jason came back, he saw a drunk slumped on the booth. On the table was an empty wine glass with a few blueberries left as decoration. 06 This wine. It's Aunt Roberta. The blackout cocktail. Jason cursed in a low voice, forgetting to ask someone to change the wine to a low-alcohol one. My head was spinning. In a daze, I sensed that Jason had returned to the private room and seemed to be calling me, "Little Yuan, wake up. Don't sleep." I tried hard to prop up my body and sit up straight, but I was still crooked. I'm not drunk, brother Jason. This wine is very delicious. You should try it too. I recommended this cocktail to him with a silly smile. Hee hee. Hee hee. Jason came to my side, bent down and supported me, with a slight frown between his brows. Confirming that I was really drunk, he nodded and said softly, "Little Yuan, you're drunk. I'll take you home." A very gentle Jason, a completely different feeling from Sean. His tone was captivating, but I didn't want to go home. I felt inexplicably sad. I pushed him away and shook my head. I don't want to go home. I'm single now. I don't want to go home. I want to find a new handsome guy tonight. Whoever loves being a good girl can be one. I slipped off the booth and squatted on the ground, with tears welling up in my eyes. The grievance that had nowhere to vent all night was finally released under the influence of alcohol. Jason suddenly reached out and pulled me up, and I accidentally bumped into his arms. It didn't smell bad. There was a delicate fragrance. I was stunned. How did I hug him while crying? Wouldn't it be too frivolous? Compared to my panic, Jason was like nothing had happened. He naturally put his arms around me. "Where do you want to go if you don't want to go home? Do you still want to find a handsome guy?" For fear that he might misunderstand, I quickly waved my hands and denied, "Brother Jason, you are very handsome but I don't covet you. How dare I? I'll go outside and find one." Jason hugged me tighter again as I was sliding down. With a hoarse and low voice, he said, "Then you'd better covet me." Because I was not behaving, Jason forcibly carried me out of the private room in a princess hug. There was a waiter guarding at the door. When seeing him come out, he greeted him respectfully, "Hello, boss." Jason carried me and walked forward without looking back. He just threw out a sentence, "In the future, if I don't say in advance, don't serve strong alcohol." We left through the back door of the bar. In a daze, I I got back into Jason's car again and was taken by him to a hotel room. Jason threw me on the bed while he stood by the bed. I propped myself up on the bed with both hands, my cheeks flushed. I stammered and spoke, full of confusion in my tone, "Why are we here? Are there handsome guys here?" "Yes. Don't I look handsome?" Jason's low voice with a hint of laughter was a bit alluring. I was lured and murmured, "Handsome." He lowered his head, gave a fleeting kiss on my cheek, and at the same time, one of his hands took hold of mine and laid me down on the bed. "Then? I allow you to covet me." Jason's voice was hoarse. He was very close to me. Although we rarely meet, for some reason, I don't dislike his closeness. There is even an indescribable sense of familiarity. Although I know it's inappropriate in terms of propriety, I don't reject it. What truly alluring male charm. It must be that I lack self-control. I need to recite the pure heart mantra more often. Suddenly, I said, "Jason, do you like me?" There was a hint of surprise in Jason's eyes. He probably hadn't expected me to ask this question, so my taking the initiative made him lose his composure. In a moment of sobriety, seeing his so interesting expression, I couldn't help but curl up the corners of my mouth. "You must like me a little. I can see it." I raised my head and got close to him. We stared at each other. As long as I moved a little closer, I could kiss his lips. And I really kissed him. Who cares if he likes me or not? I want to chase handsome guys. I'll choose him tonight. Jason's Adam's apple bobbed slightly as he pressed down on me. Through the clothes, I could feel his heart beating steadily and powerfully. And he also responded passionately, deepening the kiss. Just as we were about to take the next step, the ringtone of a mobile phone sounded in the room. No one cared. But the caller was very persistent and kept calling relentlessly. When the phone rang for the third time, I finally pushed Jason and motioned for him to answer the phone for me. "It's too noisy." Reluctantly, Jason got up from me and fumbled in the bag on the sofa not far away to find the phone. Seeing the caller ID, a trace of sarcasm flashed across his face and he answered the phone. "Yvonne, where have you gone?" Sean's exasperated voice came from the other end of the phone. "Is it so that you can't wait for 2 hours? I heard from the restaurant waiter that you got in Jason's car and left? It's already 2 a.m. Only now does he remember that I might still be at the restaurant. Isn't it ridiculous?" I was very impatient and pouted on the bed and muttered to Jason, "Help me block him. He's so annoying." Jason chuckled, looking at me with doting eyes, and replied to the person on the call, "Did you hear that? She asked me to block you, Jason? Why are you still together so late? Where are you?" Sean was still chattering on. Jason directly blocked and hung up the phone and set the phone to do not disturb. With his long legs taking 2 strides, he returned to the bed and hugged me tightly, guiding my hand to help him take off his shirt. The long night passed without sleep. At this moment, we were doing the most intimate thing between a man and a woman. "Xiaoyuan. Yvonne." Jason called my name over and over again. His chest vibrated, and his voice was filled with emotion, sounding extremely hard to suppress. And my eyes were misty with water, and I mumbled vaguely, "I'm here." Jason was silent for a moment. After a while, he a hoarse response from his throat, Tonight's Jason was completely different from the him in my impression, dangerous and charming. In the morning, Jason was still sleeping. I had already left the hotel. The reason is that I was cowardly. Unexpectedly, that glass of pink cocktail could make me so bold. I directly slept with Jason. Without having time to think too much, I just left a note, put on my clothes and covered the red marks on my body tightly before running away. When I returned downstairs to my apartment, I saw Sean leaning against the car. As soon as he saw me, he spoke eagerly, "Yvonne, I'm wrong. Don't be angry, okay? I just regard Cherry as a younger sister." Sean ran over and took my hand, with a slightly coaxing tone, attempting to give me a slap and then a sweet. "This is how I have compromised with him countless times. I know you will forgive me. We are about to get married, aren't we? Don't throw away the ring again next time." He took out the ring necklace that I threw back to him last night from his pocket and wanted to put it on for me again. He really doesn't care that I spent the night out with Jason. I just saw Cherry showing off the breakfast prepared by her Sean brother on Moments again. And now he comes to find me here. One is in the south of the city and the other is in the north. Is he a master of time management? I brushed aside his hand that was approaching me. "We're over. There is no forgiveness and we won't get married." Sean lowered his eyes, looking sad, and continued to pester me. "I know you were with Jason last night to anger me. I was really angered. They all said you went to the bar. But I searched all night and couldn't find you. You also blocked me. Didn't I receive punishment too? Why is this person like a dogskin plaster? He can't let go of Cherry but still wants to drag me along. A promiscuous man. I lost patience and stopped looking at him. I turned around and left. Don't you understand breaking up? Want to get back together? Or do you want to continue enjoying having multiple women around you? People are indeed only clear-headed after a breakup. What on earth was I eating before? 12. I went upstairs and returned to my apartment, took a bath. My body was still a bit tired, but I felt extremely refreshed. After sleeping for a while, it was almost noon when my best friend Wendy called. Yuan, woo-woo, the heartless capitalist has finally let me go. This beauty left early last night really because I was persecuted by my boss. How about I treat you to a meal at noon today as compensation? I wasn't fully awake yet. I stretched in a daze. Eating is fine. Let's celebrate my return to being single. Ah? Wendy exclaimed in shock through the phone, what happened? Let's talk when we meet. The old place. I hung up the phone, lay back on the bed, and looked at the ceiling, lost in thought for a long time. The memories of last night were unclear in my mind. It seemed that even sleeping couldn't forcefully ignore them. When I arrived at the restaurant, Wendy had ordered the dishes in advance. She pricked up her ears. Come on, let's eat. Tell me what's going on while we eat. I'm so curious. After all the last night, all my strength was exhausted. I didn't wake up until noon and hadn't eaten anything yet. I was already very hungry. The aroma of food was already wafting over, making my hunger even stronger. I directly forked a large piece and stuffed it into my mouth bulging. I paused and said, last night he was entangled by Cherry again. When I lost hope, we broke up. Wendy directly changed seats and sat down beside me with a plop. I said he wasn't worthy of you. It's okay. Breaking up is good. There are plenty of good men out there. I think Jason is not bad. Unfortunately, I left as soon as he came last night. I heard from colleagues at the company that he just returned to the country and is probably about to take over the group. I just don't know if such a high-quality man is still single. The air suddenly fell into silence. Who knows? Why are you so nosy? What do you mean nosy? As your best friend, isn't it normal for me to care about your love life? It has nothing to do with me. I think being single is fine. I raised my eyebrows. Free and unrestrained. Suddenly, there was a soft snort from behind. The sound seemed to come from between the teeth, cold and chilling. A woman who starts a relationship casually and then abandons it. Use and throw away. Play and run. I felt as if I was in an atmosphere of resentment and felt inexplicably guilty. I slightly turned my head and saw Jason standing not far from our table. There was also a beautiful woman standing beside him, looking at him in confusion. Why did you stop? What does play and run mean? 13. I originally pretended not to see him guiltily. Like covering one's ears while stealing a bell. As a result, I was still pulled into the private room of the restaurant by him. And his female companion stayed outside and looked at Wendy with a blank face. Jason looked down at me. Yvonne, this is the first time I've been dumped by a woman. You bad woman. That I looked at him in shock. I thought last night was just an accident. I'm not. I left a note. That was just an accident. Jason's eyes were full of resentment. So are you trying to be irresponsible? It was you who pushed me down last night. I shook my head. I'm not irresponsible. You. Didn't you have a girlfriend? He is a young master from the Beijing social circle, surrounded by beautiful women. I really don't understand what he means by saying this. Especially since there was a girl by his side just now. So young and beautiful. Girlfriend? Who told you I have a girlfriend? The one who came with me just now is my cousin. He raised his eyebrows. Probably noticing that there was something wrong with my tone, he held out his phone in front of me and directly showed me their recent chat records. His cousin bombarded him with messages this morning and asked him to have a meal. Coincidentally, she chose this restaurant. So that's it. Jason suddenly leaned forward. The familiar smell of a man pressed down. His eyebrows and eyes were also very close. He said word by word, now can you be responsible? The man is exquisitely handsome, obviously looking as cold as a flower on a high mountain. But once close, even his gaze becomes hot and dangerous. If I say no, will I not survive tomorrow? I froze and didn't dare to move. My ears were burning. My head nodded unconsciously. Jason smiled. grabbed my arm, pulled me into his arms, and buried his chin in my neck. I heard his muffled laughter. "You are mine." After a long time, Jason finally moved and leaned close to my ear. I will only say this sentence once. Listen carefully. I have had a crush on you for a long time. I end this way. I officially started dating Jason. Everything is so unreal. After I left the private room of the restaurant that day, what awaited me were two nosy hearts. I was interrogated for a long time. Finally managed to fob it off with difficulty, but I still wasn't used to being Jason's girlfriend. Hesitant, doubtful, wavering. Especially what did his last sentence mean? I still didn't understand it. Until that day, I was taken to the old house to have a meal with Grandma Fu. When I opened that album, I actually saw myself. Jason is very domineering. He often drags me to live at his house. We had been in a relationship for less than a month, and his home had already become my second residence. My own small apartment had become deserted. This Friday, Jason suddenly sent me a message before coming to pick me up. "Grandma wants to see you. Let me take you back to the old house for dinner tomorrow." That night. If looks could kill, Jason would have been killed by me several times. We had only been together for a short while, and now we were meeting elders. And I didn't have any psychological preparation at all. I gave him a sharp look. That night, Jason could only sleep in the guest room. My heart had been in a state of unease, until noon the next day. Jason took me to a villa somewhere in the suburbs of Beijing and I met that kind-hearted grandma. "Dear Yvonne, I've been looking forward to your coming. Is that brat treating you well? If he bullies you, just tell Grandma directly. He can't beat Grandma." Jason, Grandma. He was so scared that he cried and begged for mercy the last time Grandma scolded him. That was in elementary school. It's still the same now. Unexpectedly, Grandma Fu is a lively character and has been bickering with Jason all the time. Whether she will really be partial to me in the future or not, at this moment she seems very approachable. My nervousness gradually eased. The old lady took my hand and strolled around the villa. Jason was completely left aside. "Dear Yvonne, you are so beautiful. That brat Jason is so lucky." It's not an exaggeration to call Grandma Fu the leader of the compliment group. She has given me enough emotional value. I am very shy and my ears turn red. I always thought that I didn't do well enough. As a result, I was very afraid of meeting parents. Although we were engaged at that time, in fact, I had met the Park family only a few times. I can never forget that sentence. Our Park family doesn't like spoiled and willful women. For a long time, I thought it was because I didn't do well enough. Suddenly, Grandma Fu took me to the study. Most of the things in the study seemed to be Jason's things from childhood to adulthood. She picked up the photo album on the table and handed it to me. "Let me show you the ugly photos of that brat." I was very surprised. He seemed to be good looking since childhood. Could there be ugly photos of him? Could it be his black history of taking photos when he was naked and showing his bottom as a child? Unable to resist my curiosity, I opened the photo album. "Ha ha ha, Grandma, Jason is so ugly when he cries." On the first page that came into view was Jason in elementary school, with snot and tears. It made me laugh so hard, but somehow I felt that the smaller version of Jason was a bit familiar. But I couldn't remember it for a moment. I continued to flip through. Suddenly, I saw a group photo of a smaller version of Jason and a girl in the corner of the third page. My finger paused on this photo. Huh? The dusty memory gradually became clear. I am 100% sure that the little girl in the photo is me. Jason and I were elementary school classmates? In shock, suddenly there was a commotion in the yard. I put down the photo album and went out to take a look. Unexpectedly, I saw Sean. "Yvonne? Why are you at the Fu family's?" "You too." Sean had just passed by here and saw Jason's car. He came in to say hello to him. Jason quietly stood in front of me. "My girlfriend." Only then did Sean realize, "Were you really together that night?" After saying that, he directly threw a punch at Jason's face. Fortunately, Jason reacted quickly and blocked it. "What are you doing?" I said angrily. Sean had always thought that I just stayed out overnight that day to make him jealous. After all, someone saw me squatting on the road crying pitifully at that time. He didn't look for me these days because he wanted to give me the cold shoulder and let me calm down and take the initiative to come back to him. He thought I would never leave him. Even though I had repeatedly emphasized the fact of our breakup to him, until today, he saw me at the Fu family's. Sean's angry face flushed red and his eyes were full of hatred as he looked at Jason. "Jason, I regarded you as a brother. Are you stealing my fiancé? Are you poaching from me? Slap! I directly slapped Sean. Sean, are you crazy? We are over. Jason looked at Sean, looked straight into his eyes and made a deep voice, from the moment you wanted to abandon Yvonne. You don't deserve to like her. After saying that, he threw a punch at Sean. The two of them started to fight. I directly stood in the middle and pulled the two of them apart. Taking the opportunity, I pushed Sean out of the Fu families. I thought this scene would scare Grandma Fu and make her deduct my impression points. After all, the grandson's girlfriend is still entangled with her ex. This is something that no one wants to see. However, Grandma Fu didn't say anything and acted as if nothing had happened. Only I felt embarrassed. But soon it was time for lunch. The atmosphere was still harmonious. After the meal, I asked Grandma for the photo album and took it away. On the way home by car, in front of my eyes, that childhood photo kept flashing back and forth. I remembered what the man beside me said when he confessed. I took the initiative to speak. When did you recognize me? Jason was not surprised at all. He was concentrating on driving, but just held my hand with his left hand and stroked it. I saw your group photo on Moments. I know this is about Sean's Moments. So, I returned to the country as soon as I received the party invitation. I was lost in thought. I thought the biggest reason we were together was the accident that night. Vaguely, I remember that little boy at the back table back then. Very naughty. As an airborne transfer student, he was very familiar with others. He got along well with the boys in the class. His personality is quite likable. But there is one bad thing. He always likes to pull my braid. At that time, passing notes was popular in class. He always intercepted the ones others gave me. He made me angry many times. Every time, he would skillfully offer me snacks to atone for his sins. That little boy is Jason. I blinked and looked at him curiously. Were you up to no good that night? It was you who actively seduced me. Jason smiled, his eyes curved. Really? The car gradually pulled over to the side. Jason leaned close to me. Are you angry then? His breath reached my face, causing a burst of heat. I shook my head blankly, and my heart beat faster and faster. No, I'm not angry. Do you like me? Yes, I do. Jason's kiss instantly fell, overbearing and domineering. Since Sean was blocked by me, I basically pay little attention to him. However, Cherry's Moments still occasionally posts some group photos of her and Sean. Obviously, their relationship has not been affected. Recently, there was a birthday party for a rich young lady. Jason took me with him. Coincidentally, we met Cherry. Originally, I directly ignored her. Less trouble is better, but Cherry blocked in front of us, full of anger. Brother Jason, did Yvonne hook up with you? Jason had an expressionless face and asked unhurriedly, is it any of your business? Cherry was choked and blushed. After stammering for a long time, she said, Yvonne, this woman is too timing. Don't be deceived by her. I directly rolled my eyes. Are you a god? Cherry growled in a low voice. Don't think you can hide it. I feel that Cherry is very annoying. Now she is slandering me. I am almost driven mad by her. Jason put his arm around my shoulder and secretly pinched it to calm my anger. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Cherry, and said slowly, isn't it you who has a rich love life? Is an underground relationship exciting? Why don't you have a proper status? Cherry's eyes widened in shock and she felt guilty. She kept shaking her head. You, don't talk nonsense. In the end, she looked around and ran away with her tail between her legs. Suddenly, it was quiet. However, that night, Jason pestered me, forcing me to hook up with him on my own initiative. I blushed all night in shame. Finally, in exasperation, I just lay flat. Originally, I thought Cherry was just a small episode. But I didn't expect that she bribed entertainment journalists and spread rumors that I was hanging on to my fiancé while seducing young Master Fu of the Fu family. When I woke up in the morning, my WeChat received countless messages. Wendy, Yuan, what's going on with the hot search? I was stunned for a moment and clicked on Weibo. At a glance, I saw that hot search, Yvonne's infidelity. I replied to Wendy. Several verified accounts forwarded a press release. According to an insider's revelation, after I got engaged to Sean, I shamelessly seduced Jason and was too timing. Therefore, I hurt my fiancé Sean. I clicked on the comments. Gold digger wants to have it both ways and just wants to marry into a wealthy family. No, she is not just a gold digger, but also a real sea queen. Slut is having her cake and eating it too. The comments that came into view were very nasty, but when I wanted to scroll down further, the comments suddenly disappeared. The post was deleted. I clicked on the real-time square. LOL, the mistress is getting backlashed, ha ha ha. Cherry and Sean, this pair of dogs, please be locked together. Why has the tone changed? I scrolled for a long time and finally found a long Weibo post. This Weibo post is clearly a clarification of that rumor-mongering article. Not only that, it also counterattacked Sean's infidelity and Cherry's being a mistress. There are several photos that I have never seen before as evidence. Surprisingly, they are kissing photos of Cherry and Sean. They are hugging on the side of the road, kissing in the underground garage, and having a tryst in the private swimming pool. I feel nauseous. What kind of person did I like before? But, who is helping me? I just realized that Jason was nowhere to be seen early in the morning. I finished washing up and walked out of the living room. Jason was sitting in front of the bar and typing on the computer. When he saw me, he gave a relaxed smile. Are you awake? Let's have breakfast. I didn't answer his words. I walked closer and took a look. He was actually engaged in a verbal battle with many people, helping me to constantly refute all the haters who scolded me. I was silent for a few seconds looking at the computer page. Did you post that clarifying blog post? Jason closed the computer, reached out and hugged me. Buried his face in my neck. Yes. Are those photos all taken by people you hired? He nodded again. I found a paparazzi and followed them casually for a few days, and these were taken. My eyes filled with mist, and the corners of my mouth turned down as if I was about to cry. Jason didn't expect my reaction and was in a flurry. He picked me up and put me on his lap. Wiped the corners of my eyes with his fingertips. Stupid, why are you crying? Jason coaxed me and said, I won't let you be bullied. I know that not long after I was smeared, there was a clarification draft. This must have been fully prepared in advance. He has always kept me in his heart and made full preparations. Heartbeat is concretized at this moment. Countless pink bubbles, accompanied by pink transparent butterflies, rise into the air and then burst with a bang. Ripples spread in the bottom of my heart. On a sunny day on the 20th. I plan to move to Jason's house. After all, I haven't lived in the apartment for a long time. When I arrived downstairs at the apartment with Jason, I unexpectedly saw the unkempt Sean. I only know that the follow-up of that hot search made Sean and Cherry notorious. It seems that even Sean's company has been affected to a certain extent. I just didn't expect Sean to be so down and out now. He is at a certain distance from me and wants to approach me. I dodged and hid behind Jason. Sean said there was nothing between him and Cherry. Those photos don't mean anything. He is not in contact with Cherry anymore. Yvonne, let's be together again. You must still love me. Didn't we say we would get married at the end of the year? Come back to me and let's prepare for the wedding well, okay? Sean kept murmuring. His spirit seems a bit abnormal. I poked my head out from behind Jason. Go dream. We ended a long time ago. It's impossible already. I quickly pulled Jason into the room and locked Sean outside. Inside the room, it was just the two of us again. Jason came here for the first time. In fact, some of the things in the original house have already been put away. I originally planned to move to Sean's place. Now it turns into moving to Jason's place. Fate in the dark. Finally fell in love with that kid from back then. After closing the door, my body was close to the wall. Jason trapped me against the wall with his arm. His breath spread from my ear, and I could clearly feel his body temperature. My cheeks flushed. Suddenly I really want to tell him my love seriously. Jason, I love you. The first sincere confession. Jason stared at me in a daze. Unknown emotions surged in his eyes, as eager as magma, as if he would lose control in the next second. He swallowed and said hoarsely, Dear, I want to exercise again, early in the morning. Inside the room, it seems to have entered a forbidden realm. Only each other's desires remain. And outside the room. Sean scolded into the phone, Cherry, I treat you as my younger sister. What are you doing? Why do you like to cling to me so much? Obviously I was just in a bad mood that day and got drunk. Why did you kiss me? Look at the photos on the internet. I've been ruined by you. Get out. Sean roared hysterically, completely ignoring that the person on the other end of the phone was originally his most beloved childhood sweetheart. He scolded anyway. However, without a man's intentional or unintentional acquiescence and indulgence. How could Cherry get close to him? On the other end of the phone, Cherry broke down and cried. Brother Sean, how can you be so fierce to me? Jason trapped me against the wall with his arm. His breath spread from my ear, and I could clearly feel his body temperature. My cheeks flushed. Suddenly I really want to tell him my love seriously. Jason, I love you. The first sincere confession. Jason stared at me in a daze. Unknown emotions surged in his eyes, as eager as magma, as if he would lose control in the next second. He swallowed and said hoarsely, "Dear, I want to exercise again."